Finding random frames in the substance until it's ugly. Here we go. I'm so glad this movie got a Best Picture nom. It is fantastic. 1, 2, 3. God, no. 1, 2, 3. Okay, much better. Very nice close-up of Demi Moore. It's primarily being lit from this side and on this side of her face, as we can see by the shadow side of her face right here. The only other thing I'll say that's impressive about the shot is that the wall right behind her is not super lit, even though she is very well lit, and that is something that a lot of amateur filmmakers, cinematographers will forget. They'll neglect this wall back here. They'll just have a light over on this side and blast it, and it's gonna wash out the wall as well as her face. So they're probably flagging a light to get the light off of the wall, which just creates more contrast, and that's just something you always need to remember when lighting close-ups close to a wall like this. Okay, let's go towards the beginning. 1, 2, 3. Okay, great shot. This shot is primarily being lit by these tubes up here, and these tubes are professional lighting equipment. They are not your typical fluorescent tubes you might see in an office situation. One of the ways I can tell that is because the color from these lights is very neutral. It's very even blue, maybe 5600 Kelvin. It's not green like you would see in a typical fluorescent tube in an office situation. The other thing that I love about this shot that makes it aesthetically pleasing is her yellow coat. It just brings a lot of color contrast, and it just makes her character pop off the screen. So not ugly. Let's go towards the middle. 1, 2, 3. Wow, this shot is probably one of the softest in the entire film. It's definitely got that old Hollywood beauty look, as you can tell, especially over here. They have to have some kind of filter on the lens right here, I would imagine. Also, you can see the lighting in her eyes pretty clear. And let's give a shout out to the makeup department, because without the makeup department, this shot wouldn't look nearly as good. Not an ugly shot. Let's go around here. 1, 2, 3. Okay, well, we don't say shots are ugly because of the personal looks of the characters on screen. So not ugly, let's go around here. By the way, props to Demi Moore for taking on this role. It is a fantastic role, and she did a great job in it, immersing herself in this character. 1, 2, 3. Here's a much better shot of Demi Moore. You basically just have a nice soft light coming from above and a nice patterned background with these tiles. In fact, I think we can get some insight into how they lit this from a BTS photo I found. As you can see, this is the bathroom set. It's not the exact same shot that we just saw, but they probably use similar lighting for all of the same setups. And they're just using a soft light, a soft probably LED light right here, just blasting down on her face, and then they're kind of filling in the rest of the room with these tubes, probably the same tubes we saw earlier. And I guess they're probably tubes inside of the mirror right here, so she's probably getting some light on her face and body from these tubes as well. But primarily the lighting is coming from this light, and it looks like it's kind of off center, so it's a little bit more to her right, and that's just going to give her a little bit more contrast and fall off on her face. So honestly, this is a great simple shot that you could probably replicate in your own low budget short film, so remember this. Next shot. 1, 2, 3. Okay, this is a pretty cool shot. So the first thing my eye is drawn to here is the abnormally long hallway. I think this is very reminiscent of something like The Shining, and I'm sure that is a movie that the director got a lot of inspiration from. But the reason she would do this, obviously, is to give the film more of an unsettling, unrealistic kind of feeling. And another way she gives it an unsettling kind of feeling is shooting this shot on a wide lens. Now, I'm not sure exactly what lens this shot in particular was shot on, because this movie employed a lot of different lenses. I think their primary lenses were the Canon K35 lenses. And funny thing about K35 lenses is that I once tried to rent some of those from a rental house in LA for my own short film, and they would not let me have them because I wasn't popular or rich enough. So screw that production house. Even if this isn't shot on one of those lenses, this is shot on a very wide lens, probably, you know, close to 12 millimeters or something, I'm not sure exactly, but this just allows the filmmaker to see all of this hallway. If you had a long lens, say a 50 millimeter, you wouldn't be able to see any of this wall over here, and you wouldn't get the effect you have. What do they call that in drawing school? A vanishing point? You wouldn't get this vanishing point back here. Is that correct? Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. So not ugly, let's go towards the beginning. 1, 2, 3. Oh, there's Dennis Quaid again, and he's still on a wide lens. This time he's a lot closer to the camera, and that gives a kind of distorted effect. It makes his head look really big compared to his body, and that's just the effect that wide lenses have when a character is close to them. I'm also starting to wonder if they shot this character solely on wide lenses to give him a kind of distorted look, because his character is supposed to be like the villain in a way of this film, and that would be quite the choice. I'm not sure if that's true or not, though. I'm gonna find, Demi Moore's also in this scene, so I'm gonna try to find her close up. What does that look like? Is that shot on a wide lens? Here we go. Demi Moore is also being shot on a wide lens. I can tell by just how much information is over here in the edges of the frame, but she is not close to the camera. She is definitely like leaning back in her chair here, and that does not create as much of a distorted effect. So I think they are intentionally choosing how they frame characters and how close they are to these wide lenses based on the story they want to tell, based on how they want the audience to perceive these characters, which is great. Not ugly. Let's risk it and go towards the end. 1, 2, 3. No, that's ugly, but for different reasons. 1, 2, 3. That's a cool shot of a dragon robe. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the thing to know about this shot is that all of this out here, outside of this window in her apartment, is not actually the city of LA. It is what they call a soft drop. And a soft drop is just a big printed material. It's often used for sets where you can see outside of a window and you need to see that there is something outside of that window. And instead of using something like an LED screen or CGI or a green screen or something, they use this because it has a lot of benefits. First of all, it looks more real than a green screen might. And second of all, it doesn't cast a gross color like a green screen. And third of all, it's cheaper than an LED screen. And you actually have a lot of control over how you light it. Specifically, in this case, they lit the soft drop with 4 Arri Sky Panel S360Cs and 40 S60Cs. So I'm always impressed by stuff like that. Not ugly. 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's cool. So I'm going to guess that this is actually a VFX shot and they didn't actually see her reflection in the doorknob that prominently because it just looks way too clear and sharp for an actual doorknob reflection. But one thing to note is that for most of this film, they used the Arri Alexa Mini LF camera because they thought that it represented the skin tones of the actors the best. But for VFX shots, and possibly for this shot, if this was a VFX shot, they actually switched to a red V-Raptor camera and shot at 8K because if you are doing VFX shots, the more resolution you have, the better, the more detailed you can make the VFX shots. And so I think this is a cool shot. Let's go back towards the beginning. 1, 2, 3. Okay, cool shot. It's kind of like the close-up we saw in the mirror earlier, but wait. I'm just going to play this. Wait, this is a cool shot. Okay, I know I cheated a little bit by playing it, but it's coming from her perspective as she's looking into the camera, and I have no clue how they filmed this. They definitely filmed it differently than the close-up in the mirror we saw earlier. Maybe they were faking it, like there's not actually a mirror here. The camera is just over here and it's looking directly at Margaret Qualley and kind of just mimicking her head moves as she moves her head. So yeah, it looks like the camera's like a little delayed. It's like responding to her head movement. So they didn't put a camera in her eyeballs, guys. Stop thinking that. Not ugly. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Here we have the same soft drop behind the window right here, and you can actually see a different kind of lighting than I talked about before with these shadows on the ground. The shadows on the ground are not caused by the Arri Sky panels that I mentioned earlier. They are in fact caused by 2 24K tungsten lights. And I guess those tungsten lights are just armed out on cranes, like off frame up here, and then blasting down and creating these shadows. And those create more of a, an orange sun-like kind of light than you see on the soft drop back here. Another random thing I love about this shot is that the frame of the glass window kind of mimics the frame of the image, and I believe this image was shot at 2.39 to 1 aspect ratio. The thing that I found interesting about that though is that this wasn't shot on anamorphic lenses, it was shot on spherical lenses and they just cropped it in post. But just having a frame within a frame like this that mimics this frame, I don't know, that just looks aesthetically pleasing to me. Okay, let's go around the middle again. 1, 2, 3. No. I'm not vomiting. I'm sick and I have a cough. 1, 2, 3. Okay, much better. There's actually a BTS photo of this setup on American Cinematographer as well, as you can see here. They are primarily lighting through this silk over here. I'm not sure what kind of light's out there, but it seems pretty powerful. And that's what's primarily giving her the light on her face. And then they're kind of filling her shadows in with this light, I believe, and also with this bounce board over here. So that just provides a nice soft light on her face. It also looks like they are lighting with some kind of tubes up here in the crevices of the wall, which is also really nice. It kind of leads your eye to her face. That's a very nice framing. Okay, let's start going back towards the end of the movie because I've been a little scared to go in that direction because I know what's coming. But here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, not bad, not bad. Actually, this is a really cool shot. I love that they decided to put all these newspapers on the wall because that's doing at least 2 things. First of all, it's creating this awesome pattern and contrast, and it's also acting as diffusion for the lights outside of the window, so you're getting a very nice soft light with little cracks of light peeking through. You're also getting this nice, cool pattern of light over here. It's almost acting like a cookie cutter or something. But I'm more concerned with the amazing set design we've got here with all these gross turkey carcasses and just all the disgusting stuff on the floor. This shot looks pretty great in terms of set design. So shout out to the set designers as well, because cinematographers' jobs are only as easy as the set designs are good. So Not Ugly, honestly, one of my favorite shots so far. 1, 2, 3. It's a cool shot, not much to say about it. The lighting is a little bit more hard, not as soft, which is probably good for this point in the movie. And it also it reminds me of something out of Carrie, which I think was also another movie that they took inspiration from, as you can see in the last scene of this film for sure. Not Ugly. 1, 2, 3. Okay, this is cool. I loved this scene in the film. It's very hilarious, but also very off-putting and uncomfortable. And I think one of the reasons it's uncomfortable is, again, because they use a wide lens and get pretty close to Dennis Quaid and all these men who are just like staring directly into the camera at the character, and it makes it seem like they are staring directly at you. And one of the things that I find kind of interesting about wide lenses is that DPs like Roger Deakins love wide-angle lenses, especially for interview-type situations, because the interviewer can get very close to the interviewee, and it makes the audience feel like they are right there in the room with them, as opposed to backing the camera up and using a longer lens. In those situations, it doesn't make you feel uncomfortable, but in these specific situations, when, you know, the character himself is supposed to be uncomfortable and the situation is supposed to be uncomfortable, I think a way to accentuate that is to put the audience right there next to the uncomfortable character or situation, and that's exactly what they did in this case, and I think it's a great scene. Not an ugly shot. 1, 2, 3. No, don't look. Not an ugly shot. 1, 2, 3. Okay, at least I can't really tell what's going on in this shot, but it's honestly kind of cool. You have two images superimposed on one another. If you know anything about this movie, which you should, because I gave you a warning at the beginning, she is spraying blood all over the audience members, and this is the audience members right in here getting sprayed on. So you have two different shots, one of the action and one of the result of the action. And what I find interesting about this is how it relates to the movie Carrie, because Carrie did kind of the same thing. It didn't superimpose images as far as I remember, but it did use a split screen of Carrie using her powers and the audience members, or the prom goers in that case, getting tortured. And I think that's a very cool way of showing a scene like this, because it just, you get the best of both worlds, I guess. And the other thing that reminds me about Carrie from this scene is the fire hose. If you remember, there's a fire hose in Carrie that she's like psychically causing to spray over everybody. And honestly, when I first saw that movie, I was like, okay, it's a fire hose. It's just water. She's spraying everybody with water. But this, she's kind of using her arm as a fire hose for blood, and it's a lot more terrifying. So I think they definitely took some inspiration from that. All right, not an ugly shot. I think it's pretty cool. 1, 2, 3. I think we found our ugly shot, guys. First of all, it's out of focus. Second of all, you're shooting right into this light, which is bleeding over and washing out the image. I'm sure in the context of this moment, it's good and it works, but for a single individual frame that you only see, if I just took this frame and showed it to you on the street and said, do you think this is a pretty frame? You would say no. So overall, I love this movie. Did it get nominated for cinematography? Let me check real quick. Okay, so the nominations for Best Cinematography at the 97th Academy Awards are The Brutalist, deserved, Dune Part 2, deserved, Maria, I haven't seen it, Nosferatu, deserved, and Amelia Perez. That's unfortunate, but overall I think this is a very fantastic looking movie with a lot of great decisions by the filmmakers in the technology they use to portray these characters in this story, and overall one of my favorite films of the year for sure. If you haven't seen it, go check it out, and I will see you guys next time.